sure it'd be great, you know, if we all had iPads, but the fact of the matter is we have 200 locations and we have 1,500 sales reps, so assuming you can understand that's a pretty large expense. Right, not to mention the majority of the people, sir, that we deal with are elderly, so they would prefer to have a paper book, that way we can take our time through it and they can see things a little bit better.
So I mentioned that a little bit, and he said, but wouldn't the elderly like for you to be able to zoom in so they can see it better?
They can get their magnifying glass, they usually have one next to theirs, so they're good.
So then his mom.
That guy Justin, we just want me and Jim to do that, so I'll second here.
Good. Okay, so, queso, we had queso yesterday. Queso.
So say with your pants, right?
Queso.
Sometimes they are.
Just have the pivot. Just pivot.
I don't wanna erase this triangle.
Just smile and pivot.
I did,
Yeah.
but when I walked out, I was like.
Yeah, afterwards, like call the husband, wife, whatever,
I did.
call the buddy and say,
"This guy told me it was
yeah. It's all about getting the at-bats, you know?
Okay, everybody ready? What you have in front of you is essentially what I call a drum roll sheet or a price presentation sheet, right? Thank you, I was looking for the filter one, right? So this is what you're going to take out as soon as you are finished with a pre-close, right? John and Mary, blah, 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 blah. You're gonna pull this out and you're going to start our closing sequence, right? This is the point where you present the price and you negotiate to the close, right? So first thing you're gonna do is present the price, and the first thing you wanna do is you wanna go over and recap exactly what is included in this price, right? So you've done your pre-close, all right, sounds good, let me put this away. All right, John and Mary, I wanna make sure we're on the same page here, so I'm gonna just make sure that we run down real quick what's gonna be included in this price that I'm leaving you today, okay? And then you wanna literally say every one of these things, right? So, you know, Roman, just so you know, we're gonna completely obviously clean out the gutters and downspouts, remember I told you that? We're gonna really seal those gutters and downspouts.
Are you holding that so you can read it, or is it you showing it to them?
I mean, you just put it on the table and read it to them, yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Let's see it right now, yes.
Yeah, I'll sit down so it's not this intimidating. And at this point, you don't have a price down. Do not write a price down until you're done with this,
Thank you.
right? Do not write a price down. You don't know the price yet, right? We're gonna seal those gutters and downspouts with that 50-year silicone. Remember I showed you we made that silicone. We'll repair any damaged gutters or downspouts if necessary. I really didn't see anything that needed that much repairing, but we'll take care of it if it's minimal, right? We're gonna realign those gutters if necessary, right? I wanna make sure that the water goes down to the downspouts like we discussed. We'll install those hidden brackets in the gutter every 1.5 to 2 foot so the leaf filter can properly be supported, and it's gonna strengthen the gutters, remember? We'll install the leaf filter on the entire home. This does include your lifetime transferable warranty. It does include the manufacturer's money back, no clog guarantee, and this price does include insurance during installation, all cleanup, everything, okay? So you say that, and then you roll out with the price. Listen, we're gonna do the entire job for just $69.11. Now notice what I said there. I said just, and I said $69.11. Psychology. Listen to the way the things are being said. I didn't say we're going to do it for $6,911. I said we're going to do it for just $69.11. Okay? We're not trying to pull the wool over the sheep's eyes. They're not stupid. They know what that number is. But when you think about the perception of what people perceive, the way you say things, like I said earlier about the heart, you know, arteries, the way things are said can drastically change the customer's perception of if they want to do it or not. Right? So always, when you're talking about what they have to pay, always word it without the 1,000 in it. If you're talking about a discount, always include the 1,000, so the discount seems a little higher, right? Again, we're not trying to con anybody. It's the same number, it's just the way you worded it. There's not a problem with doing that, right? So we're gonna do the entire job for just $69.11, right? At that point, you wanna pause for 4 seconds, right? So I will literally go. We're gonna do this entire job, Roman, for just $69.11. I'll put my pen down, put the paper sideways, and I'm gonna lean back and I'm just gonna shut up. For 4, 5, 6 seconds, whatever, right? Now, this is not one of those, and I get this all the time, this is not one of those scenarios where the first person to talk loses, right? We're not just sitting here like, I'm not saying shit, I'm not saying shit, you're gonna talk first. That's not what this is about. This is strictly about the customer absorbing what the fuck you just sent them. Right? Because right now, the customer's probably got a million thoughts going through their head. The fact that they have to freaking swallow $7,000 almost, right? The cost of a used car, the sticker shock is outrageous right now. They're freaking out. Maybe not, but you have to assume that, right? Just assume that. Do yourself a favor and assume that this is like crazy to them. It'll help slow you down and work through them. Not to mention, anything you say before they can understand or come to terms with this is probably going in one ear and out the other ear. Let's be honest. It's probably going in one ear, out the other ear. Right? Because they're not focused on what you're saying. They're focused on like how bad they just got screwed, or like how expensive, or how they're gonna pay this. So they don't care that you've already moved on. Give them a few seconds to catch their breath, because you just took it away from them. Right? Expect that. So after you're done with that, it's important to find out how they would pay for this job. You need to explain to them the types of customers that we have. But more importantly, you cannot move on. I repeat, you cannot move on from that step at all until you find out how they would pay. It is massively critical that you get them to tell you how they would pay. Now, there's a very specific way that you do this, because you can't just be, well, Eddie, we're gonna do the whole job for just $69.11. How do you want to pay for this? Right? A lot of times they're gonna be like, I don't know. You gonna put it on a card? But no, I don't know, right? Because you're putting them under the gun. You're essentially making them feel like they have to commit to buying it to you today. And we're not asking for the sale yet. That's not the time that we do it. Right? Do me a favor before we move any further. Take your phone and put a stopwatch on there and start the counter. Put your phone on and do a stopwatch. So hit start. I want time to go by, because I want to show you how long it takes to do something. So, with that being said, you do your 4-second pause. Now listen, Eddie, we got 2 different types of customers at Leaf Filter, okay? One that wants to pay by, check or cash, or, honestly, Eddie, if you want to put on a card, get miles or points, feel free. But I want to make sure that we're on the same page with this, okay? If you do decide you want to go that direction, we don't require any money up front. We don't require any down payments. We don't require any deposits, okay? I'm going to do business with you essentially on Handshake here, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. So here's what's going to happen, is I'm going to take care of everything. We're going to come out, we're going to completely install the job, and once you're satisfied, then you're going to pay me. Sound fair?
Can you say, what does that say again? What does that mean?
Check, or cash, check, or credit card. And you want to write this out. They need to see this, right? So you can pay by this, this, or this. If you want to go that direction, John and Mary, we don't require any money up front, no deposits, no down payments. I'm going to come out here, do business on a Handshake right now, do the job, beginning to end. Once you're satisfied, then pay me up front. That's just how we do business. Okay? Makes you feel more comfortable about the situation. If you're not happy, you're not paying me. Right? The other type of customer is one that wants to make a small monthly payment. And with that being said, if you decided you wanted to go that direction, you're looking at just $172 a month.
How do you get that number? What divide by do you get that number?
We'll talk price later, we'll deal with that, but there is a divide factor based on the finance options we have. This is typically on plan 2225, which is like, what is it, 6.9 or 9.9% interest for 50 months or something like that. It's the plan that takes the lowest commission out of you guys. It'll also help you roll into a no interest option if they're focused on a monthly payment, right?
What plan was that?
What is it, Eddie, is it 2225? Or, yeah, 2225, I think it is. Yeah, plan 2225, reduced rate of 12.9 APR with custom 1/50th payments. And the finance charge is only 5%, so it's like they put it on a credit card. And so there's a divide factor by 2.15, so their minimum monthly payment is like essentially 2% of that every month. And we'll get you more educated on that later. So with that being said, you explained we can do cash as a charge or we can do the customers. Very important, the verbiage, write this down. When it comes time for you to get this project started with me, what type of customer do you think you're gonna be?
I just want to write a check, but
Okay, so most likely you would just pay for it when we're done. And then I would circle that, right?
When it comes time for you.
When it comes time for you to get this project started with me, when it comes time for you to get this project started with me, what type of customer do you think you would be? I'm getting them to give me an answer, but I'm not pressuring them to buy anything right now. So more likely they're going to give me an answer because instead of going, so listen, how do you want to do this? Right? Or, so how do you want to pay for this? Do you think you'd want to pay for it on a credit card or do you think you want to finance it? Don't pressure me to do shit. I'm not there yet, guys, right? Like that's how I would think as a customer. But you're simply just wording it. Now give me an objection, like we don't know, or we could go either way, right? So let me ask you a question, Eddie. When it comes time for you to get this project started with me, what type of customer do you think you'd be?
I was wanting to write a check, but I can't write it for no 6911.
Right. So a lot of times you're gonna get customers that are gonna go, well, I don't know, we'll have to think about it. Or maybe you'll get a customer that goes, oh, we could probably do either or, we'll have to discuss that and we can let you know. Right? So yeah, you got an answer out of them, but you didn't find out how they're gonna pay, so you really can't move on yet. So it's very easy to still get an answer. Listen, I'm sure you could do either one of them, Eddie. Let me ask you a quick question, if you don't mind. What's the last home improvement project you did around the house?
I got my deck done last year.
You got your deck done, did it turn out pretty good?
Yeah, done pretty good.
I bet that wasn't cheap, huh?
Was not.
Let me ask you a question. How did you pay for that? Did you just stroke them a check or put it on a card, or did they have some kind of finance specials?
I actually put it on a card because we get frequent flyer miles and we go to Florida every year.
Right on, no worries. So I would assume if you even decided to do business with me anytime, you probably would just pay it on a card, so you didn't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah, the wife's
All right.
out frequent flyer miles.
Yeah, I hear you. See how I got an answer, how easy that was? So I always, if they don't give me an answer, I'll always revert back to asking them what the last big home improvement job was. And then I'll ask how they paid for that.
Does anybody remember what this is called? I know I went over it with 3 or 4 of you in here. What's that called, what he's doing right there?
Is it the lyric?
Nope.
This specific thing or the global?
What he's done right there, giving you choices
The
right
3
there.
tier one. No?
This is called a choice alternate close.
Yeah.
Choice alternate close.
Right. Cause everybody don't have almost $7,000 laying in their check account for gutters and gutter protection. So he's giving them a choice alternate close, like you just said, keeping the pressure off. You know, you tell me what works out best for you, you know. So you don't know if they got $20 in their checking account or 20,000.
Very true. But do you see how I still got an answer? Because they're more likely to do the same thing that they've done in the past. Humans are very habitual. If somebody likes to pay for things and doesn't want to finance, they're not going to finance it, or they're just not going to do the job. They can't. So I got you to tell me that you're going to just pay for it outright. Next step of the process is step 3, the opinion of price. Now this was the hardest step for me when I was in that chair. Because me, being confident, I just crushed the warm-up. I crushed the inspection. I did an amazing company demo. I nailed the pre-close. They said they were gonna buy. Why am I gonna open up the freaking gate for them to tell me how their opinion of the price is terrible and they think it's expensive, and then I have to discount it when I haven't even asked them to buy it yet? Right? Can you imagine? Can you think about, like, yeah, man, that kind of makes sense. So it was always hard for me to ask the customer's opinion because I knew they were gonna say it was too much, and I assumed that that was a gateway for me to have to discount it and lose money on the job because I hadn't asked them to buy it yet. And I kept thinking, well, maybe if I don't ask their opinion, I just ask them to buy it, maybe they'll buy it. Rest assured, there is a methodical reason why we ask this. And the following steps help re-evaluate the customer's perception of this price and get them to understand why they have to pay it. The opinion of the price is so important because it's a pivotal question that the customer is gonna expect you to get defensive on. Because when you are gonna ask, Eddie, let me ask you a question, what's your opinion of the price? They're gonna tell you their honest opinion and expect you to not like it and go, well, why did you think that? Well, how'd you come up with that? Like, really, you think it's too much? Wow, oh my God, like almost, they're gonna feel like they're gonna insult you. Right? You've done a great job this whole time getting their wall down. You shot on the price, the wall's up at the fucking roof again. Now you're asking what their opinion of the price is. They think you're gonna start getting combative and insulted because it's too expensive and you don't think it's too expensive. Right? So what do? You agree with them. Make them feel like they're not crazy. Let me ask you a question, Roman, what's your opinion of the price?
It's a little bit high,
A little bit.
for sure.
Probably a lot high, huh?
Yeah.
It's like a freaking used car.
Yeah.
Can you imagine gutters and gutter guards for $7,000? It's nuts, man. Look, I get it. You're not going crazy. I understand that it's probably a massive sticker shock to you, and you're the same way of everybody else. So you're really like on the same page. So don't worry about it, man. I get it. It's freaking expensive. There's something to be said about agreeing with them like that, because guess what? Now they feel like you're on their side again, right? They feel like they're not crazy. They know they're not gonna get insulted. The tension immediately melts off of the customer
They trust you again.
when you agree
Yeah.
on something that they wholeheartedly thought was about to be an issue, right? And now guess what? Y'all are cool again,
Can't sell to a madman.
right? Real simple step, but I can tell you right now, this step will make you money because they'll trust you again. Because they'll know that you're not just trying to sell them something and convince them to buy it. You're actually agreeing with them that it's expensive and too much, right? But that's okay, because these next steps were arguably, and I can tell you right now, and I'm gonna have to ask Eddie, these are probably his favorite steps and the best steps, because they're my favorite steps and the best steps, right? Now the 3-tier bump is essentially the step where you're going to get an idea of where they expect, we're hoping that the price was gonna be. Had they known everything that you already explained to them and laid out while you're here before you even got there, whether they have expected it to be a little more money based on the quality and everything, and realistically what most people expect to spend, right? So you've done your opinion of the price, and you wanna roll into this step. David, you know, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, what were you hoping this was gonna cost?
Like $2,000.
Like $2,000? No, hey, look, man, I get it. That's generous, David. I get it. I understand.
I thought you were selling me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, David. I apologize.
That's my son.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm writing
$2,000.
I'm writing a check today.
So listen. $2,000. He gave me a price. That's great.
Absolutely, anything but zero, don't it?
If he gives you a price, if you get a price, because you're gonna get a price, because just like in the 2 types of customers, your asses aren't moving on from that step until you get a number out of them. You have to know where your baseline is. You have to know where their head is at. You can't move on unless you know where you're at. Right? He said $2,000. Hell yeah, I'm done with that step. But I'm writing that number right up here. Seeing is believing. You can go through this whole process. If they don't see what y'all are talking about, then they can't put it together. It doesn't make sense. There's already too much going on. Remember the children aspect? It's simplistic. They need to see what you're talking about. Right? So, let's throw a curveball out there. I asked you what you were hoping it was going to be. Tell me you don't know. Let me ask you a question. What were you hoping this was going to be?
I had no idea, that's why.
That's why you called me out here, right? You had no idea. Could have been $500, 15,000. Look, I get it, man. I get it. I'm sure you had some kind of budget in mind, and I'm pretty confident, right, David? It wasn't $6,900. Let me ask you a question. How much did your gutters cost when you got them put on?
They came with that house.
They came with the house, so what, probably a couple $1,000. I can't imagine it would be more than that, right? So I'm sure you didn't think it would be any more than what it would cost to put new gutters up, right? A couple grand.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. He agreed. I got him to agree on something. Write that number down. If they're not going to give you a price, tell them a price. Right? And there's so many other ways you can do it, right? Like, listen, if you had to pick a number that you thought it was going to cost before you got here, and if you got it right, it'd be free. What would that number be? Right? Whatever you want to do. I like the more direct approach, right? I'm sure you had some kind of budget in mind, surely not this. What did you think? I mean, I can't imagine you would have thought it was gonna be more than what, like $2 grand, $2,500? And shake your head, yes, right? The power of persuasion, yes. And get them to shake their head, yes. And then write that number down. With all due respect, had you known everything that you know now about the warranty, about the quality, about what we do, before I got here, I mean, I would hope that you would be honest with me and tell me that you would have expected it to be a little more, what, maybe 2,800, maybe $3 grand at the most.
Sure.
You know, I've been doing this a long time. We do a lot of work in this area, especially in this neighborhood, believe it or not. And a lot of these houses are very similar. You know, most people with a job your size, the amount that you have like 200 linear foot, most people with a job your size expect to spend around $5,500. So you're really not that far off from what most people expect to spend, right? That most people is a very, very important step, because that is gonna put that customer into the same category as most people. You know, we talked a little yesterday about human nature and us being very habitual human beings, right? We do things the same way every single day. We have habits, we have routines, right? I can only
Take that
imagine.
dog out yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. I can only imagine that the majority of us at this table, when we get out of bed in the morning, we do one of two things. All of us. We do the same one or two things. We either get up and brush our teeth or get up and go to the bathroom.
Yeah, good deed.
Am I wrong in that?
Or look at your phone.
Well, yeah,
Some
naturally.
generations, yeah.
For the coffee.
But the first thing you do when you step out of bed is you either go to the bathroom, or you brush your teeth, you brush things, right? Like, this is normal human habit. Well, humans have other habit things that they do during the day. Still on your breath?
Yeah, I am, just because I forgot that. A whole cup of coffee.
Did you mention yesterday?
You know, humans are very habitual. Let me give you a couple scenarios, right? I mean, you know, we might have talked about this. Have you ever gotten off the interstate, right? And you want to make a left turn and go under the interstate bridge, right? And there's 3 turn lanes, and you ever get off there and why the hell are 2 of the lanes empty, but the 3rd lane is slap full, and you can't even get to the other 2 lanes because the line.
I know.
Why do people do that? It's subliminal. It's subconscious. They just follow the leader. People are in this lane to turn. They don't even. It doesn't even register that there's 2 more lanes. And you think, well, maybe they have to get over to the right real quick. Okay, so they give it a little more gas going over there. At least you miss out. You don't have to go through 2 cycles of the freaking light, right? You guys ever experienced something like that in traffic? It doesn't make sense. There's 3 turn lanes, but everybody only uses 1. What the fuck's going on here? Right? And you're laughing because you're like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's little shit like that. You know, this happened years ago to me. I was watching a YouTube video. It was like a social experiment, right? There was this group of people, about 15 people, that set up this makeshift room with curtains, I guess. It was like a 15 by 15 room in the middle of a mall. And they put these big curtains, 15 foot, 15 foot, 15 foot, and then they put a red carpet and some red ropes here as an entrance, and then some red carpet and the red ropes here as an entrance. There was no signage, no nothing. And they set the 15 people that were in on it, they put them all in one line, right? The other line was empty. And then it was a 2-story mall, so they had a camera up at the top, and they time-lapsed about an hour and a half worth of footage just on that. And over that hour and a half, another 30 people got in line to wait, even though they had no idea what they were in line for. It was just curiosity, right? But that wasn't the experiment. The experiment was following people's habits and subliminal imagery and messaging. And after that hour and a half, the additional 30 people were all in the line that the other people were in, and that other line was empty still. It wasn't closed. For all you know, you could have walked right up and went in. But they didn't because they saw the other people doing it. So they thought, well, if everybody's doing that, right? How many of you guys smoked in high school, cigarettes in high school? Right? How many of your friends smoked cigarettes in high school? Probably because everybody smoked cigarettes in high school and it was the cool thing to do. Right? It's similar in many different aspects. Right? You do things that other people do because A, they don't get in trouble, or B, it seems cool, or C, it just seems like the right thing to do, so you just do it. So all those people get in line and I'm like, holy shit, they didn't even know that this line could have been wide open to go in. I always think about that when I go through this most people scenario in this step, because it makes me understand that even me just suggesting that most people in your neighborhood with the same type of house and a job your size expect to spend that much. Maybe that customer sits in their head, they're not gonna tell you obviously, right? They're gonna be like, that makes total sense, I'll up my price. No, they're not gonna do that. But maybe they reevaluate their original assessment and go, well, you know what, they got a point. I mean, if most people are paying that much, I mean, it's still a lot of money, but maybe I'll pay a little more. They just reevaluate it. I mean, have you guys ever bought a car before? Have you ever bought a car and spent a little more money on it than you really wanted to spend? Have you ever gone to a dealership and said, I'm not spending more than this much, or my payments aren't gonna be more than this much a month? And what happens, you leave and the car was $4,000 more, your payments are $80 more a month, right? What happened is you reevaluated your priorities and what you're willing to spend somehow, and you left spending more than you wanted for some reason because you justified it to yourself it was worth it. This step will help that customer do the same thing. You're just not a sleazy car salesman, right? You cannot miss that step. Hoping, expecting most people. Step number 5 is our add, subtract, multiply, and divide step. This is where we are going to justify this number for the customer, and they are really going to understand why they have to pay $69.11. We are going to start out by adding the physical benefits of Leaf Filter. There are 3 specific benefits. I expect you to write them down to say the same thing every single time. But before you do that, you need to get the customer talking about Leaf Filter. You need to get them to give you an idea of where their head is at and what they like about it. So after I said most people at a job this size expect to spend $5,500, so you're really not that far off from what most people expect to spend. Let me ask you a question, David. Is there anything in particular you like about Leaf Filter? I'd like to just know I did a good job.
The screen.
The screen? Yeah, it doesn't matter what they say. Right, Eddie?
Right.
They could say, I love the screen, I love the vinyl. Man, Eddie, I love the way it tastes. It smells so good. It's delicious. Man, that's the sexiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I love it. They can say whatever they want to say. Agree with them.
And that's what most customers tell me.
Yeah, most customers tell me that.
Nobody
They love the way it smells.
Nobody wants to be different. Everybody wants to be in the majority, right? So you want to be just like everybody else, right? Well, that's what most customers say.
Yeah, most customers also tell me that they love the fact that we use 316L surgical grade stainless steel instead of, cheap screen or something like that. I hear a lot of people that tell me that they're pretty blown away by the fact that we don't use any plastic and we use 100% pure virgin vinyl. Right? And the other thing, believe it or not, you might not have even thought about this, David, is a lot of people like the fact that we do a complete gutter tune-up before we even put the stuff on here. A lot of other companies would have just been like, with a leaf blower and toss it on there. But half the time we're out here, the entire half the time we're here is going to be making sure your gutters are essentially like they were when they were brand new. Right? Those are the 3 things you need to write down, and those are the 3 things you need to say every single time as soon as the customer talks about Leaf Filter.
What's the word, like gut, we're gonna gutter what, gutter, give me a word. You know, like the whole cleaning it out, relining it, give me a word that sums that up. Gutter, what word did you use?
Gutter tune-up.
Tune-up, okay.
Yep. So, we're gonna talk about the fact that most people like the 316L surgical grade stainless steel in this order. Most people like the fact that we use 100% pure virgin vinyl in that order. Most people like that we do a complete gutter tune-up. Half the time we're gonna be out here, we're gonna be cleaning out the gutters, repitching them, realigning them, resealing them, putting hidden hangers in there, making sure everything is up to par, and then we're gonna install the leak filter. Right? So here's how we start evaluating that price and getting the customer to understand why they're paying that. This is a very pivotal moment and one of my favorite parts of this whole process. We're gonna take those 3 things that we just added as physical benefits for leak filter, and we're going to let them know how we could cheapen it by removing them. Right? Look, I could certainly cheapen this for you, probably pretty substantially, but I gotta tell you, you're not gonna want me to cheapen it the way I would have to, David. Let me give you an example. You have 205 linear foot of this, okay, that I'm putting on. If I took off 205 linear foot of 316L surgical grade stainless steel, and I replaced it with, I don't know, screen, window screen, or even aluminum metal, like cheap aluminum. Right, on a job your size, I'm probably taking off at least $2,600 minimum. If I use plastic, which honestly you probably get away with, right? Because you're not going to know the difference. 205 linear foot. If I just removed all that vinyl resin and I put plastic, recycled plastic from China, I get it at pennies on the dollar. I'm taking off, I'm saying minimum $1,500. You have a huge job, it's like 4 times the average size of our job. And if I just came out here and had a guy or 2 come out and go, and just slap it on here, labor's not cheap. I'm sure you can understand our installers have to earn an honest living to feed their families, right? Materials, expense, all kinds of stuff is not cheap, right? So just on the several hours it would take us to do this alone, I'd save on labor, I'd save on material and cost, right? So even on a low ball, I would probably be at least saving you $900 on this. Notice what I'm doing? Hoping you're expecting most people price here, retail price, subtract price right here.
Everybody, I'll never say this much, especially in a training meeting, but everybody pull out your phones and look. I've sent you guys something, if you hadn't seen it already, that'll follow with him step by step. Are you guys seeing that already? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're seeing it on this side of everything you're just saying, so I just thought that would
Yeah, that's
help
great,
grab it.
that's good. You should get that printed out for them too. What were we saying, Ryan?
What's the 900? That's
Labor.
labor.
That's if we just eliminated all the tune-up, the whole gutter tune-up. If we didn't put new hangers, if we didn't reseal, if we didn't repitch in a line, if we didn't fix any of the problems, if we didn't do any of that.
Yeah, but just putting plastic chicken wire up there is not gonna help that issue right there, cause
So I want-
going in behind.
Yeah. I want you to do some quick math and you're gonna literally go, whoa, that makes sense. Add all this up.
$42, $43?
$5,000.
Oh, okay. For 5 now.
Okay.
Yeah, 51.
That's before tax.
How much is it? 5,100? 5,000. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Subtract $5,000 from 6911 right now, and tell me what that comes up with. And I know what it is, but I want you to do it. How much is it?
1911.
Holy shit! It's right what you were hoping it was going to be. Ain't that a fucking doozy?
I don't even believe in
So
coincidences.
what's that?
And I don't even believe in coincidences.
What do you know? Like, is it just a coincidence that you're right on the money of what you thought it was going to spend? The only reason it costs more than you were hoping it was going to be, David, is the fact that we are putting the best quality product on there with the best warranty. It's maintenance free, and we're putting a lot of time and effort into making sure you don't spend any more money on gutters for the rest of your freaking life. So the only difference in what it costs versus what you thought is simply the fact that the quality is 10 times better than you thought it was gonna be. So realistically, I know it's a lot more money than you thought, but at least you're getting what you're paying for. The whole point of this first and second step is to have the customer understand that this isn't a $2,000 job and I'm putting $4,900 in my fucking pocket. It's having them know that this is a $6,000 job and I might be making a couple hundred. If it were up to me as a consumer, I always want to get the best deal. How I know I get the best deal is if the company that I'm buying shit from ain't making money. Because that's how I know I got the best deal. If the customer's perception that this should only be a couple grand, they're not buying it from you because they think you're fucking them. But if the value exceeds the price, they'll buy it every time. But if the price exceeds the value, they'll never buy it. This helps bring the value up to where it exceeds that price. If the customer thinks it's a $2,000 job, they're not spending $6,900. If the customer feels like, man, this should cost $7, $8 grand, and it's less, they're gonna buy it. So doing this, helping them understand that the only reason it's more is simply because they're getting more, they're going to feel the value is worth spending more money because they're getting what they're paying for. Right? Then we want to multiply the intangible aspects of Leaf Filter. What is the definition of intangible? What is an intangible?
Like getting on a ladder in life.
Yeah, that's great. An intangible is typically something of value, but you can't touch it or see it, right? Something that isn't a brick and mortar, right? So, y'all tell me some of the intangible things that Leaf Filter offers. You already hit the nail on the head. Getting on your safety. What else does a Leaf Filter do?
Protect your house.
Yeah, protects your largest investment. What else?
Gives you equity in your home.
Yeah. Builds equity. Peace of mind. Right? Those are intangible things. So you want to transition into that and tell the customer, listen, John and Mary, there's things you can't even put a price tag on. You're right, and this is typically the point in the process where you really want to get the husband and wife talking about themselves, right? There's things you can't put a price tag on. John, I get it. You've never fallen off a ladder, you're never going to fall off a ladder. I get it, I believe you, you probably never will, until you do. John and Mary, how long y'all been together? Been married 33 years? Okay, that's a long time to be married. And I respect that, and I hope one day I can be in your position. But let me ask you a question, Mary. If John hurt himself and broke his leg and was paralyzed the rest of his life, or something, I'm sure you'd be able to help him the rest of his life, but how devastating would that be for the rest of your lives in the future of your relationship? Having to take care of him, right? That would be really bad. John and Mary, how long have y'all lived in this house? How devastating would it be if something were to happen on this house and it cost you $30,000 to repair that you can't afford because insurance won't pay on? You know, your peace of mind and your safety is way more important than the fact that you might not want to spend $6,900. I get it, it's a lot of freaking money. Duh, when's the last time you bought anything, John and Mary, that you spent exactly what you wanted to pay for? I get it. But you have to understand, how much does a broken hip cost? 50 grand maybe? It's a lot of freaking money. How much does a new roof cost if insurance isn't covering it because you neglected it? 20,000? You have to understand, John and Mary, the cost of not doing anything right now often far exceeds the cost of doing anything. You have a ton of problems. We already talked about that. Listen, let me ask you a question, Roman. How long do you plan on being here in this house? I would assume at least another 10 years. Maybe they're going to carry out in a pine box for all I know. I don't know.
10 years.
10 years? Okay, listen, you're gonna be here a while. That means you're gonna get your monies back. You're talking about a difference